One thing I liked about this guitar, the latest versions of these, is you notice the headstock is more symmetrical. But in the old days, and I owned one of these maybe about 10 years ago, and it had a bigger tulip headstock, and I didn't like them. And they persisted with that for a long time. I think it looks great. As usual for Eastman, it's the ebony fretboard. I actually really like this. There's a little bit of brown, and you can see the grain and the wood in this ebony piece. Fully bound neck, beautiful. So the 486 is differentiated from the 386. It's got these parallelogram inlays. It's just deluxe, basically. It has Seymour Duncan pickups. That's the Jazz, and that's the 59. These kind of look vintagey too, don't they? These old tone pots, they're called top hats. And now let's have a look at the flame. Not bad, eh? And so this is the Goldburst. So it's a lot lighter, sunburst. And I think it looks great. And so there it is, the T486. This causes a bit of grief over in America, but this thing's made in Beijing, China. Vintage tuners, look at the way they sort of flare to match the angle of the headstock. There, would that be a join here? I'll have to check that. Let's have a look. What do you think, guys? One piece? I don't know. Let's see if there's a joint here. I don't think so. Now, my acoustic, the E3, has definitely got a joint there on that angle as it goes up to the headstock. Nice binding all around here with this black stripe. This is nice, look. And you've got the strap button at the back, and if we come around here, the flame sort of pops. So now these are laminated guitars, and as are the Gibson 335. Like the 335, this guitar's got a 24 3/4 inch scale. Yeah. Oh, and the last point. Before I bought it, I did ask Ryan. I said, "How heavy are these guitars?" 3.6 kilos. So he said, "Look, that's pretty light." I think that comes to about 8 pounds, or just under. And I've got to say, to pick it up, it's not heavy. Well, it's not light, but it's certainly not as heavy as my Les Paul copy. Hey, now check this out. Look at the binding on the neck. Got this like lovely stripy sort of look to it. Continues up through the headstock. Really nice, eh? And look how nicely that nut's set in as well, and that angle. It looks beautifully done. And yeah, first impressions are like the fit and finish, and people who have said Eastman's have not been absolutely the best, but that's also because they're handmade, right? Okay, first impressions on the setup. So look, as I've told you in my other videos, if you put your finger here, fret the first fret, and then put your thumb so where the neck joins the body, and then you lean forward and you have a little tap here. It's very little here, but you can hear there is some. Now I'm going to come to the top E here. Yeah, so there's a little bit there as well. So look, the top, nice. Intonation's not perfect. Listen to that. So it's flat. But here's my other complaint. Buzzing on the low E. So as soon as I put a bit of strength into it, it's rattling like hell. The top's fine. We're not hitting that G, so it's pretty buzzy. So yeah, I'll have to have a look at that. And I believe the neck's a 12-inch radius, but it feels quite flat. And as people have commented, some people love it. It's a 1 3/4 nut, so it feels like it's not a deep neck, but it feels certainly substantial in the width side of things. And look, I like that. Certainly in terms of the depth, it seems to be dead straight all the way up. Yeah, so that's the modern style, isn't it? Just to keep the necks skinny. And okay, I just had to put this in quickly because look, within about 15-20 minutes of just sitting with the guitar playing it, after that real rattly experience on the bottom E, listen. So yeah, the rattling's kind of just died away already. So yeah, look, it's, I'm just going to give it a bit of time and see how it goes. A bit more of a deep dive into the intonation. So listen. open top E. Well, of course, that's always going to be exactly in tune because you're not fretting there. And then if you want to even hear it more, you come up to this one. Hear how flat that is? Alright, so I've adjusted the intonation with this little Phillips head screwdriver. We call them Phillips heads here in Australia. Yeah, so look what happened. This one got, so I basically just came in here and I screwed that one, and look, I've just done it by ear, and I come pretty far to the front. The B came forward as well. So look at that, it's quite an extreme slope, and then we suddenly come forward here for some reason to the D. But to my ear, this is what sounded right. Okay, a couple of weeks have passed, and I've just got the Eastman out tonight to do the fret level. Okay, got that off, so keeping them connected. One thing I'm just noticing about these is they're really quite loose. Like, let's have a look at this one. Same with this. So it's interesting. I would have thought that the thread of the screw would have been tight. It's strange, isn't it? How much play there is there. Put that back on, and as I pointed out before, look at that. I did crank that even a bit further. It's right to the front to achieve that that correct intonation. Okay, so this is a DIY channel. So it's a bit like, you know, when you first start changing the oil in your car, you know, or at least if you take your guitar to a mechanic, you want to know, you know, what they're going to do. So it's just about having that little bit of knowledge. And look, I think starting with fret is probably a good place to go. So look, this is a great tool to get. As I said, this is how you determine if there's a little bit of height on these frets. A little bit there. Look, this is quite subtle. So I'm really enjoying playing this guitar. It took me a little while, like, because it's probably, look, $2,000 guitars is probably my limit. You know, you get that little bit of buyer's remorse sometimes, and you feel a bit scared after you bought it. You can see I've marked up the frets with a bit of texture. So we'll level them. And by the way, what we do is we start leveling at the top, so playing, and then you work your way back down. Another thing I picked up was, yeah, when you're filing, it's good to actually cover these pickups, because they're quite, if you get some fine filings onto them, you'll never get them out. Okay, so this is a tool I use. So that's your narrow and your wide. Okay, so I'm just doing the second highest fret here. I'm using the narrow, and just doing that a little bit. And then I've just got the rocker in here. Okay, so in the middle of the fret there, it's level. There's no rocking, none there. It just starts there. So just over the B and the high E string. I'm going to take a bit more off. Let's check that. Look at that, flat. And I suppose the truth is, if you did it too much, it could be more than flat, it could be under. And now I'm coming down to fret 17 on the low E, and look at this. This was the one I was a bit shocked by, where I'm getting a lot of rattling on the bottom E. So I'm really hoping this fret here is going to really help. Okay, so this is why it's super important to keep checking with the rocker. You've got to make sure you're getting the file over the right part of the fret. So I was cranking away at it, and look, it's pretty much flat here. And as I come back up here, there, it's starting to rock again. I've got to be careful not to angle my file so I take off too much on the low E side. I've got to get into the middle here. So I guess, you know, this is where we take our life into our hands here, doing it ourselves. So there's fret 6, fret 12, fret 14, fret 17, fret 20, and 21 needed a little bit of work. So that's the report card from Eastman. And look, I'd be interested in feedback if people get a Gibson or some high-end guitar. Do they still need to do this kind of fretwork? I don't know. I mean, yeah, this is a $2,000 guitar. If you didn't have this tool, you'd have to send it to a luthier, I guess, for a setup. Okay, now you might have noticed that I didn't put masking tape in between the frets. And it's a bit slack, I guess, but I think the reason is because this file, it doesn't actually touch the wood.
So if you're careful, you know, it's not going to actually mark the timber. What actually does cause the marking on the timber is actually, at this point, if I got some sandpapers and wanted to polish the frets, I'm inclined to just leave it. Now, I'll tell you the only thing is, when I had to really work hard on number 17, it actually got some, it's got some little indent, like it's kind of got some marks here, which aren't great. But I'm just wondering, how often am I going to hit that string? And then over time, as you play the guitar, the strings are going to do the work for you to polish it off. So I think I'm just going to put the strings back on. I hope I'm not appalling the luthiers out there. But anyway, I think that's where we're going to leave this one. Okay, so just a little acoustic test. That's the G there. Yeah, so I don't know then. Look, I can say now the frets are flat, so could it be the relief? Maybe I should release the truss rod a tiny bit, because obviously more relief on the neck, actually, obviously the further back the neck goes, the higher it's getting with a bit of curve in it. So okay, so we're going to adjust the truss rod here to stop the rattling here on these lower strings. So just one screw holding this one on. Nice touch. This is wood. Look at that, guys. Okay, let's see what's in the packet. Oh, thank you, Eastman. Okay, so this is the truss rod adjustment. So it's not using this, which I grabbed. That's the truss rod adjustment for the acoustics. So we've got this nice looking guy. And so there's the, is that a Gibson thing? There we go. Oh yeah, there we are. That's look, that's all I feel I want to do. It kind of moved with a little bit of a rush. Okay, so just checking if the relief's been increased on the neck. And look, it's still pretty subtle. Let's have a little listen to it. Okay, I'm going to loosen it a tiny bit more. I'm not used to doing it up the top of the neck. I'm used to getting in here with the truss. There we go. Just one more little turn I just did. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to crank up the saddle as well if it doesn't stop rattling from this. And as I say, listen, soft to touch. Yeah, so the other thing I was interested in looking at was this, the height here of the saddle. And you can see it's not super high. And then it comes down, there's the brake angle coming down to the stop piece. And of course you can crank these up and down. There's a lot of discussion about how much brake angle you get. I would say that's only moderate brake angle. I'm not going to touch it. This is how it came from Eastman. But I did do a couple of photos of a couple of examples of guitars in the shop, because what struck me is this is my my other guitar, my Les Paul copy, has this a lot high. This is a lot higher, but I did check, and even with the bona fide Gibson 335, this was about the height, so I think this is standard. But once again, getting back to my philosophizing about saddle and string heights, is I wonder if these have come down over the ages. And we probably need to do a bit of research on what the golden era, like the late 50s and early 60s 335s actually were set up like, and whether this is a flatter setup than the old ones. Okay, folks, another few days later. Now I can play this guitar without much rattling gently, but I'm going to go one more time here. So after that last clip, I did adjust with the screwdriver here. I'm going to do one more. So this is anti-clockwise to raise this action. Okay, I'm just going to try that. So what my diagnosis was is because it was also rattling a bit up the top here. That's when you'd probably want to raise the bridge. If the rattling's at the bottom, that's where you might need a bit of truss rod release. And apologies, I don't have my string height measure. It's missing. But the question is, how high is it here? It's getting up a bit, to be honest, but it's still probably a bit lower than my acoustics. So I think it's okay.
Thank you.